Monetary policy looms large today as we await the decision of the Federal Reserve's Open Market Committee. Senator Tom Cotton, Republican of Arkansas, serves on the Senate Banking Committee as well as Armed Services. Senator Cotton is a decorated veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan and went on to serve in the Old Guard. He's written a book about his service there. It's called A Sacred Duty, a soldier's tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Welcome now, Senator Cotton, back to Bloomberg, coming to us from Washington. So, Senator, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, David.
We're going to come back to you about your service in just a moment. Let's talk about the Fed, because we are waiting just a few hours now from a Fed decision. What would you like to see the Fed do today in terms of cutting rates?
David, I don't want to prejudge what the Fed will do. I'll wait with all of your viewers to see. But what we always want from the Fed, certainly what Arkansans want, is a stable currency, low inflation, and maximum employment. The economy is moving along pretty strongly today. We'll see what direction the Fed takes later today and in the weeks ahead.
Well, as you say, we all hope for a strong economy. It did respond well to the tax cuts. If, in fact, the Fed cuts, is that an indication that maybe the economy is weaker than we might have hoped?
Well, it could be a sign that they're worried about slow international growth as well. You know, the indicators out of China in particular, but also Europe, have not been as strong as they are here in America for many months now. And that obviously has secondary effects on our market as well. But I feel pretty good about the direction of our economy here. We'll see again what they do later today.
The President of the United States has not been shy in expressing his displeasure with some of what Chair Powell, whom he appointed, has done there. And there was a report from Bloomberg yesterday that, in fact, at least last February, the White House was considering demoting Chair Powell, not kicking him off the Fed altogether, but just not making him chair anymore. If that were to happen, would you object to that either on legal or on policy grounds?
David, I don't want to speculate about a hypothetical, and I certainly can't comment on what conversations may or may not have happened between the president and his senior advisors to which I wasn't privy.
Fair enough. Okay, let me ask one other question involving banking regulation, which is Facebook. And they've announced now that they're going to create a new cryptocurrency. Several of your colleagues, both in the House and on the Senate yesterday, came out on both sides of the aisle and said there's some real concern about regulating that. Do you believe that there should be hearings and should there be an effort to regulate any cryptocurrency created by Facebook?
I understand those concerns and I share them, David. Cryptocurrencies are still a very new and emerging technology. That's why it's important that we scrutinize them in the Congress and through our financial regulatory agencies. They offer some promise, but also some peril as well. There's already evidence that some cryptocurrencies have been used for illicit activities like money laundering or terrorism or what have you. There's also some concerns that a company like Facebook might use its monopoly status to leverage into new markets beyond advertising. I think those are valid concerns and things that we should evaluate in the weeks ahead.
As I said, you are a decorated veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. You've written this book, Sacred Duty, about your service there, really focusing specifically on the Old Guard at Arlington National Cemetery. At the same time, we have now troops deployed, an increasing number of troops deployed over in the area of Iran to deal with the problem with the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. You have said that you would not be entirely against but the potential of military action over there, although the president said he doesn't want it. Why are you more confident, perhaps, in the president that could come out well for us?
David, I don't want to see military action either. As I write in Sacred Duty, some of the last people who want to commit our young men and women into the fight are those who have borne the battle in the past. But we have to remember that Iran's been waging a low-grade war against the United States for 40 years. Engaging in some ways the exact kind of behavior they have over the last week, blowing up tankers, targeting more than 130 ships throughout the 1980s until Ronald Reagan sank a large part of their Navy. In Iraq in the last decade, they were responsible for the deaths of more than 500 American soldiers. What we cannot do is allow Iran to continue to engage in this outlaw behavior, impeding freedom of navigation on the high seas or targeting our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, targeting our allies in places like the United Arab Emirates or in Saudi Arabia. If we don't draw a firm line, if we don't put some boundaries in front of the Ayatollahs, I'm afraid we will only see more escalation from Iran.
Senator, you have seen firsthand some of the difficulties in asymmetric warfare, as it were. We've seen that in Afghanistan. We saw that also in Iraq. Are you confident that we've learned enough that we could actually conduct asymmetric warfare? Because let's be frank, the way Iran is conducting itself, it's through surrogates. It's through Hezbollah. It's through other people. It's through the Houthis down in Yemen. Are you confident that we can conduct successfully an asymmetric war against Iran?
Well, the message we need to send to Iran, and the message I'm confident senior administration officials have sent, is that we will hold Iran responsible for its proxies. You cannot breed, raise, feed, train pit bulls and then let them off the chain and say it's not our responsibility. That's exactly what Iran does with terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. It's what it does with its rebel proxies in Yemen as well. We've made it clear that we will hold Iran responsible for any actions that result in the deaths of Americans, whether they're our troops or our citizens in the regions.
Finally, briefly, Senator, we now have an opening at the head of the Department of Defense. We have an acting, with Mr. Shanahan pulling back. Your name has been mentioned. Are you available for that position?
I am available to continue serving the people of Arkansas and the United States Senate. I'm very grateful for the opportunity they've given me, and I'm going to ask them to send me back next year, David.